cover a super frequently asked question I get asked all the time, which is, am I too old for nursing or NP school? So I thought we would just dedicate a whole video to it, have a quick chat about it. I'll share my thoughts and maybe you can share your thoughts. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Liz. I'm a family nurse practitioner, but many years before that, I went through an accelerated nursing program because I too had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up when I was 18. And it took me a few years of fumbling and bumbling around before I figured it out. So I totally feel you if you didn't exactly know what you wanted to do forever when you were a teenager, because that's crazy to me that that's when we have to decide. But that's what society seems to do, and then it makes you kind of feel like, oh, if I didn't decide then, I'm behind. Well, hopefully this video can kind of put some of those fears, calm some of those fears down, because you, my friend, are not behind. And if you're even asking yourself this question, the answer is most likely no. You are not too old, you're gonna be just fine. But I thought we would just spend some time talking today about it. There's two big questions I think you should ask yourself when you're facing this question. And then I'm gonna talk about some of the benefits of actually having some life experience under your belt before you go back to nursing and NP school. So there we go, let's dive into it. The questions you should kind of ask yourself if you're facing this am I too old question, and then we'll talk about the good parts. Question number one, I would ask yourself, how much longer do you plan on being in the workforce? So the reason I kind of say to ponder this is you're gonna kind of have to balance, you know, is it worth it for how many years you have left that you wanna be working? If you wanna retire in 5 years, I don't know, school's gonna take 2 and then you'll be working for 3, like, is that worth it to you? And it might be, and in that case, absolutely go for it. If you have 10, 20, 30 years of work ahead of you, I would say, that's absolutely worth it. That's like a huge chunk of time. The other thing you want to kind of consider within this question is, will you be working long enough to repay your loans? So you want to make it obviously worth it for you in the long run, not only like for your soul, like maybe this job will complete you inside, but you want to be able to pay off your loans so you're not retired with all this student loan debt hanging over your head. So if you're not paying out of pocket, that's something to consider. But if you are paying out of pocket, you can just throw that consideration right out the window. I will say, in my accelerated BSN program, there were people of all ages. So I was 21 when I entered it because I piggybacked it onto my original degree. There were a couple people that were in my scenario, but most of the people in my program were in their mid to late 20s to 30s. There were a good chunk in their 40s, and there were like 5 people who were in their 50s. One woman was even in her 60s. And same with my NP program. It was a huge smear of people. I was 26 when I went into it, and I was the baby. So really, I think you will not be alone if you're sitting there thinking like, am I gonna be the only one who's 30? No, you're not gonna be the only one who's 30. It's gonna be fine. There are people of all ages in these programs. And like I said, in a few minutes, we'll talk about why that actually could be a really awesome thing that you have a little bit of life experience. But that's the first broad thing I want you to think about. Will the amount of time I'm actually going to be able to work in this field be worth it to me? And that's going to vary by everyone. Like I said, you could be working for like 3 years, and for you, like you just always wanted to do this, and that fulfilled that for you. This is a total personalized question to you, but that's just something to kind of think about. Will how long I get to do this be worth the education and kind of what it takes from my life while I'm gaining this new skill? And the second question is really basic too. Like, is this something you've always wanted to do? Because if yes, then the question to number 1 might not even matter, even if it doesn't really necessarily make sense. Sometimes there's those things in life where you're like, I just gotta do this. Like my heart is telling me I gotta go, then go. One of the best things someone ever told me when considering, you know, starting new challenges was, do you think in, you know, 5, 10 years or at the end of your life when looking back, would you regret not doing this? Because these decisions can be scary. It can be like, oh my gosh, this is life-changing. This is gonna affect my family and my whole life. But would you regret not doing it? And if the answer to that is, yeah, I think I would regret it, then I would say go for it. At least in my life, I would so much rather try something and then fail, which I've done plenty of times, but at least then I could be like, well, I did try. Like I really put my foot out there and went for it. And even if it doesn't work out, you know, you did your best, you tried. And just remember, along this line, you don't have to explain yourself to anyone. I find that a lot of times people who come to me and are asking, you know, hey, should I go back? Like, I'm worried about, like, I have a stable career in this and I want to totally change it to nursing. And I just feel like everyone's going to be like, you're so successful in this like business world. Why would you ever change? And yada, yada, yada. Like, why are you doing this to, your life is so stable and calm. And guys, who cares what other people think? There were people in my ABSN program who were making bank. Like they were in investment banking. They were like high ups in all of these business companies. And they just like, they were like, it wasn't fulfilling to me. So I switched. It doesn't make sense on paper to go from a job where you work in a fancy office and have assistants and bring you lunch and you're making like 150 grand to go working as a nurse where you're not making that and you don't even get a lunch necessarily. But it fulfilled them. And they're like, this is what I feel like I was meant to do. And they were happier. They were happier as a nurse than they were doing that. So it's totally up to you. It doesn't matter what other people think your job looks like or like, why is she doing that? Who cares? At the end of the day, it matters not at all what they think. It matters what you think and how you feel about yourself and if it's fulfilling to you. So who cares? Don't even have other people in the picture. Maybe have like your immediate family, their input in this situation, but other people, doesn't matter what they say. Your neighbors, your parents, nope, you're not part of this. And really guys, those are the big 2 questions I would ask yourself if you're thinking about this am I too old question. Obviously I don't know everything, like each situation is different, but those are the 2 that I have found the most helpful when talking with other people kind of through this whole process. Now, like I said, there are definitely some advantages to going back to school after gaining some life experience. 1, you are way more focused on school. I don't know about you, but when I went into college, you know, there's just like, it's a whole new thing. You're living away from home. You're like excited. You're going out and you're hanging out with your friends. There's a lot going on, and school was like obviously a priority, but that was like not my all-encompassing. My social life was pretty important too. And it's most likely that you are probably not going out to Main Street on Thursday night when you're going back to school in your 40s and 50s. I mean, maybe you are, but for most people, you're a little bit more focused on school. You know how to do well academically. The stakes are higher because you're a grown up. You're like, I know what I'm sacrificing and I want to do well. You're motivated because you're like, this is what I really, really want to do. And you're just more mature. The more mature you are, I have found, is just makes you a more successful student. This is not to say that all undergrad students are unsuccessful or unmotivated at all. I'm just saying in general, with age, you get a little bit more mature and you're able to focus a little bit more on school while you're actually doing like the studying. Yeah, you might have a lot more life stuff going on, but I found as I got older in school, I was able to prioritize it differently and I would give it the attention it really needed. The second is all those life experiences you've been doing along the way. They give you valuable skills and make you just like a really well-rounded person, which is gonna in turn make you a better nurse or nurse practitioner because you've gained all these cool skills along the way. And it doesn't matter what you've been doing. Maybe you've been a stay-at-home mom. Hello, you're the house manager. You've learned how to manage 8 million things go flying up in the air at the same time. You know how to be organized, make a schedule. All of those things are gonna be hugely helpful. Maybe you've been a teacher. We had tons of teachers in my program for whatever reason. Hello, you know how to manage people better than anyone. Like difficult patient situations are gonna be nothing after you've had 35 second graders in a room trying to shove things up their nose and dance on desks. Like you've got crowd control down to a T. Maybe you were some kind of like, you were in the corporate world and you know how to do presentations and be a leader, have all those types of people and organizational skills that you have backing you up. Whatever you've been doing, I promise you've learned something that you're gonna bring to the table and it's going to make you a better student, nurse practitioner, whatever you're going for. And kind of within this, the other thing I get a lot of questions on, you know, will people even hire me? And I have seen employers be very eager to hire slightly more mature nurses and nurse practitioners because they know you have these life skills. They know you're a little older, you're very serious and committed to your job most likely, and you have all these other cool backgrounds you're bringing information from. It can get kind of boring, you know, if you have your whole unit is a nurse that followed the exact same path and has the exact same background. No, you want eclectic experiences. You want a variety of different backgrounds because it brings so many different skills and you want that well-rounded group. So I have actually seen the opposite where I've seen people more likely to get hired almost if they have like, you know, hey, I was an accountant for 20 years, like awesome. You're gonna be able to be such a cool asset to our team. So hopefully that calms that down a little bit, that I think they don't shy away from, hey, you haven't been doing this since you were 20. It's more like, oh, cool, you've done this other stuff, sweet, let's go. So I cannot stress enough how those extra life skills are gonna be so, so valuable in this whole process for you. Be proud of yourself, guys. Be proud of all the stuff that you've done so far, because I hear so many people saying that they feel discouraged, that they wasted all this time. You did not waste any time. You were building you were becoming who you are. Those experiences led you here. Embrace them and use whatever you've learned to propel you forward into this new direction. Let it set you apart. Don't be afraid to use those to your advantage. And the third thing kind of ties into the rest is the more life experience I've seen most people have, the more successful they are. So the people who were in their 50s, in their 60s, in my NP and my nursing program, they were not like, we called them unflappable because they just like, the craziness would be happening and we were just like young, like, and all of the other younger students were just like, like can't handle the stress. Like we were panicking, and these people were just like, you know, I've seen so much worse. And I was so jealous of them because they handled it like a champ. They were right. In the end, everything was totally fine, but they just knew that going into it. They're like, yeah, this is fine. Like I've dealt with worse. Like it's total, I got this. So you absolutely get this, like, I got this mentality and it'll be fine, and it really will. There's something about being able to like tackle life that you seem to have as you gain more and more life experience that I'm just jealous, and use that to your advantage. You're gonna be that cool cucumber while everyone else is like, oh my gosh, we have how many tests in 1 week? You're like, yeah, it's fine. Like I have 4 kids, nothing shocks me anymore. Like you can do that, you can do pretty much anything. So use that to your advantage. And that's pretty much it, guys. That is my thoughts on, are you told to be a nurse or a nurse practitioner? I'd love to hear what you guys think down below. Our question of the day can just be like, if you've been in a nursing program or an NP program or whatever school you're in, like have there been students that have gone back switching careers or changed their mind later in life, and like did they seem successful? What were your thoughts on that? Is that you? I'd love to hear from you down below. Again, if videos like this were helpful, consider subscribing. I would love to have you. I have big videos just like this on nursing and NP stuff on Tuesdays, and on Saturdays I have a vlog where I share my life as an FNP, both in and out of work. And over on Instagram, a great place where we can just like chat, and I show what I'm learning at work each day and all the things I see there. Hope this calmed some of your fears if this is a question you've been asking yourself. Again, don't forget to tell me about your experiences down below. I think it's so helpful to see as a community, like, oh hey, I'm really not alone. Like there are others out there like me, because there are, I promise you. Have a great rest of your week, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.